President Lato, I believe you're muted.
My bad. I welcome back to open session at 7:17 p.m. I will just like to report back on matters that happened during closed session. So for 3A1, there was discussion and action was taken. The vote was 5-0. For 3B1, there was discussion. And so now we will move on to item number 5 from the floor. So if there is anyone who would wish to address the board on any matters that aren't agendized today, now is your time. I see no hands. This is also a friendly reminder that this meeting is being recorded, and if you need Spanish interpretation, it is available. And I will kindly ask Trustee Polito if you could please share that message in Spanish.
Buenas noches a todos. Si quisiera escuchar, oprime el icono de interpretación. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you. So now we will move on to item 6, which is public hearings. We'll move on to 6A, which is public hearing on the 2021 through 2024 Local Control and Accountability Plan, LCAP.
Thank you, President Latu. We have our team here led by Lara Brennan, our CNI director, who will help us present. And so Lara will be sharing her screen as we go through the deck. And again, this is an opportunity to share with you our local control accountability plan to get input from the trustees and the community at large. And any direction we receive from the board tonight, we will make sure to incorporate it into our final draft of the LCAP that we will present again to the board June 24th for approval. Lara, do you have sharing abilities? Awesome. And like I had mentioned, this is a formal public hearing where we will present to you our local control accountability plan, giving you context and timeline. We moved due to the pandemic, and also all districts in the state moved the local control accountability plan to this year, 21-22. And we'll provide more context and timelines around that, about that information. We'll provide an annual update. Our team will also give you an update on the goals and actions embedded in our local control accountability plan, as well as increase and improve services, and then a quick budget overview. As you know, the public hearing around our 21-22 budget is to follow. So you'll have a more in-depth presentation about the budget, which will also include the local control accountability plan. Next slide. Thank you. So yeah, as I mentioned briefly, the LCAP moved due to COVID-19 to 21-24, the 3-year plan, versus presenting to you a 3-year plan in 2021 school year. And again, the whole state switched. The development of the 3-year local control accountability plan moved because of this pandemic. And instead of the LCAP, staff updated the board, if you recall, back in the fall of 2020 in November and September, where we had to present to you the local continuity attendance plan, the LCP, to memorialize the planning that we had already had in place for 2021 school year. And in essence, the learning continuity plan placed the LCAP for the 2021 school year. So what is the LCAP? The LCAP is a 3-year plan that describes the goals, actions, services, and expenditures to support positive student outcomes that address state and local priorities. As you may or may not know, you see there 8 state priorities for improving student outcomes that we must address in our local control accountability plan. And this is our opportunity to share our story of how and why program services are selected to meet our students' needs. So you can see this as like, you can think of this as a cake. We had developed back in March of 2020, our strategic plan, took a lot of work, a lot of time building and bringing all the ideas together from major stakeholders, of course, the trustees, and we've had several staff meetings and several committees to develop our 5-year strategic plan that defines our mission and our core values and major 6 priorities. Initiatives and milestones are also embedded in this plan, and it really focuses on areas requiring significant improvement. The LCAP incorporates the strategic plan along with additional goals, actions, and services that address the needs of our students, primarily unduplicated pupils. It is updated annually to allow for evaluation of progress within the state priorities and prioritizes funding to develop and support more effective actions. And then the SIPSA, our school plan for student achievement, that is a tool that prioritizes programs specifically at the school sites, and that is evaluated on an annual basis. Of course, the SIPSAs are aligned to the LCAP. You see here now the timeline. And as I mentioned, we've had some movement of when we are to present the LCAP. And so there's the star, follow the star, this is where we are. And again, just a reminder, we presented to you the local continuity attendance plan in 2021, which shared the work that we did this year and put everything in place. And now we are at the point where we would love to be able to share with you the work in developing the local control accountability plan. And it's taken some time, and here are the dates of when and how we brought groups together to provide input to our local control accountability plan. In February, we brought cabinet, instructional leadership, school sites, and we presented to our DAC, DLAC, District Advisory Committee, and District English Language Advisory Committee that's made up of parents and community members. We also brought back the the LCAP again to DAC, DLAC in March. We also had SELPA consultation from the county, as well as County Office of Ed provide feedback to our LCAP. And then in April, we presented the LCAP again for more feedback and continued revision and iterations with our cabinet. And also we presented this to our office staff and our special ed team at our all hands meeting. And in May, we did some more work. Lada made herself available for the community during office hours to receive any feedback. We also ensured that not during just formal meetings, that we had an opportunity for families during the community action meetings facilitated by me to be able to provide feedback to the LCAP, along with making sure that our RTA, Ravenswood Teachers Association, and CSCA were able to consult and give feedback. And then we submitted our draft to the county again to see if there's any additional input. And then tonight, we have our public hearing, and then we will make changes to our LCAP, provided direction by the board, and present a final presentation to you for approval on the 24th. So we would like to let you know that we were prepared to share and provide updates on all the accomplishments that we were able to do in our LCAP during our 1920 school year. And remember, we had 5 goals. All students will receive high quality instruction. All students pre-K through 8th grade will have equitable access to programs, supports, etc. We wanted to integrate technology into all subject areas, go forwards to ensure a smooth transition to high school for students. And then goal 5 was to make sure that we had safe, warm, dry facilities. And then this happened, right? And as we were preparing to take account of our accomplishments and set new goals, COVID hit. And in lieu of developing a 3-year plan in 2021 for the LCAP, we developed the the Learning Continuity Attendance Plan. I don't know if they meant to have the same acronym, LCAP, it happened. And so when I was saying, anyway, I was saying local instead of Learning Continuity Attendance Plan earlier. But this was an opportunity for us to document all the actions and also the funding that we allocated towards some of the strategies to pull off this academic school year. So you can see the in-person instruction, the distance learning program as well, the school nutrition. I think more importantly here was monitoring and making sure how we remain connected with students and families under pupil-family engagement and outreach. Okay, and that was all documented in the Learning Continuity and Attendance Plan. And so now we are in a place to, as we recover from the pandemic, plan and prepare for effective school years to come over the next 3 years. And we would like to present to you our LCAP for 21, 22, 22, I'm sorry, 21, 22, 22, 23, 23, 24 school year. So Nada will begin by sharing our goals and our actions.
Thank you, Gina. Good evening, members of the board and the community. We are very excited to share with you this evening the goals, actions, and metrics that we have written into our 3-year LCAP plan. So to start off, I think it's good to know the 2 different kinds of goals that you'll see in our LCAP. The first is broad goals. Broad goals are wide in scope and reflect priorities for the district. They should focus on improving performance across a wide range of metrics. And this includes addressing the 8 state priorities that you saw in the introduction. Broad goals in our current LCAP are most similar to the LCAP goals that you would have seen in our previous 3-year LCAP. We drew a really strong connection, as Gina explained, between our LCAP and our strategic plan. So with our strategic plan steering committee last school year, we wrote this mission statement for our district. Ravenswood City School District empowers every student to fully engage critically and creatively in their education with the skills and mindsets necessary to successfully fulfill their unique potential. So with this mission in mind, then we worked on connecting our strategic plan to our LCAP. So I'll share that roadmap in a moment. The other type of goals that you'll see in our LCAP are focus goals. Focus goals are new to the state template for this cycle, and they are more concentrated in scope. They focus on fewer metrics and for a shorter time period. They're focused on measuring improvement and addressing specific areas of need that our data is showing may require or benefit from a targeted approach. So very much like a SMART goal. We are required to connect our focus goals to the data on the California State Dashboard, which is the method of accountability that the state uses for districts and schools throughout the state. You'll also hear a summary of the actions that we included in each of our goals. And the actions are really the heart of the LCAP. So we'll identify how we'll reach our goals, who, when you read the full LCAP, you'll see who is doing what, for whom or for which students, and to what end. What are we trying to accomplish? In the full LCAP, you can also see a connection between our actions and our planned expenditures. So getting into our broad goals and actions, this is where we wanted to share the alignment between our LCAP and our strategic plan that I mentioned. So our strategic priority 1 in our strategic plan is to engage students with relevant, rigorous, and standards-aligned instruction, supports, and materials. So we really built on this strategic priority to write broad goal 1, but open it up to a wider scope. So our strategic plan focuses on 2 key areas for instruction: English language arts and math. In the LCAP, we're obligated to show our efforts, goals, actions, metrics across all of the content areas that we provide for our students. Strategic priority 2 in our strategic plan is to provide safe, joyful, and productive learning environments with the proper social emotional supports. So we have translated this into broad goal 2 for our LCAP. Strategic priority 3 is around recruiting and retaining highly effective and diverse team members, which translates to broad goal 3. Strategic priority 4 is to partner with families in the community to support the whole child, and this translates to broad goal 4. The next 2 strategic priorities manage people, time, and budget responsibly, equitably, and strategically in service of students, and work collaboratively and share responsibility for our core values. These are really important to the district, to our strategic plan, but they're not translated into LCAP goals. They don't address the state priorities laid out at the beginning, and are more about how we all work together to make the rest of the goals and priorities happen. So still there in the strategic plan, but you won't see those specifically in the LCAP. So broad goal 1 is to engage students with relevant, rigorous, and standards-aligned instruction, supports, and materials across all subjects. There are many actions under this goal that you can see in the full LCAP. So we did not list all of them here, as you'll see with the other goals as well. But some of the major areas of actions under this broad goal include the following. So 1 is professional development plans and leadership initiatives. We have different plans and opportunities in the LCAP for teachers and leaders to engage in different content areas, to grow their knowledge and then also their leadership skills. We also included specifics around content area pilots, curriculum adoptions, and implementation. So for example, at our last meeting, the board approved our very exciting TK through 5th grade and GSS curriculum adoption, which we'll be implementing next school year. And tonight you'll hear about our proposed curriculum for a 6-8 social studies adoption. So that's all in the LCAP along with other content areas. We also have actions around student enrichment opportunities and learning acceleration. You've heard about a lot of these before. So a few examples there include supporting our maker spaces, visual and performing arts, physical education for our students, and then under learning acceleration, items like summer school, a robust after school program, class size reduction in grades 4 through 8, and extended school day. Broad goal 1 also includes a few different actions on data review. So it's really important to us to be data driven in our day-to-day practices and decision making. So we have actions around our MTSS process and, for example, analyzing the data for English learners. And then finally, in a category all on its own, we're excited to be launching next school year an Ethnic Studies Committee. So the Ethnic Studies model curriculum has been approved at the state level, and now we have the opportunity to dive into that at our local level and determine how we can include ethnic studies in the curriculum for all of our students.
Wonderful. Really quick before you move on, for the Ethnic Studies Committee, will you be reaching out? Sorry, I'm really passionate about ethnic studies. Will you be reaching out to some of the local organizations that do curriculum around?
Yes, that will definitely be part of it. I would say the step before that will be to convene our team across different roles of staff members in the district to understand the purpose of the ethnic studies model curriculum from the state level, and then do exactly what you just said. So consider what are the implications for us locally and how can we bring all of the local resources and context into the classroom. And we know there's some great resources available for that.
Wonderful. Will there also be some talks about possibly incorporating this into a training for staff as well. Because I think that while the model's good to also educate our young people, I think it'll also be important for staff to kind of be able to experience something like that.
Yes, I agree. So when the way the process will unfold, in addition to the two steps I just mentioned, will be any specific resources or lessons, etc., that we are able to gather. The goal will be to actually pilot those in the classroom for with committee members, so that we can get a sense of how the lessons go, what tweaks need to be made before rolling it out with a broader range of staff. But then when that's ready, the staff would receive training before being asked to implement any of the curriculum pieces.
Wonderful, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So going into broad goal 2, I'm going to hand it over to, oh, just kidding. One more thing related to broad goal 1 is our metrics. How do we measure our progress in this goal? A few of the metrics include access to suitable instructional materials, access to a broad course of study for all students, student achievement in English language arts, math, and science, which includes both local assessments and state assessments. We are looking at measuring student growth. We have a goal particularly in English language arts for our African American student subgroup, and we selected that to track based on needs shown from our previous dashboard data. We'll also be measuring English learner progress. So for example, growth or increase in English learner proficiency indicator level, LPAC scores and reclassification rate, and then also the physical fitness test outcomes. So now I'll be handing it over to Cindy Chin, Director of Student Services, to share about Broad Goal 2.
Thank you. Broad Goal 2 focuses on providing a safe, joyful, and productive learning environments with the proper social, emotional, and behavior supports. And so in order to do that, we want to provide professional development for staff, specifically on culturally relevant teaching and restorative justice practices. We'd like to implement our social emotional learning curriculum, second step, which had started a little bit in the middle school, and then we'll transition into the elementary sites with their digital model. We want to provide access to mental health services for staff, students, and families through the various partnerships that we have. Improves positive behavioral interventions and supports for students, organized play, including clubs and activities for the elementary sites, and then training for staff around the community resilience model. And we'll measure this goal through attendance rates, suspension rates, our panorama survey responses for the sense of safety and school connectedness, and then also completion of our universal screeners, such as the SRSSIE, which helps us measure when students are internalizers or externalizers in terms of some of their emotional needs. And now I will pass on to Tony for Broad Goal 3.
Thanks so much. So Broad Goal 3 is about recruiting and retaining highly effective and diverse team members. You'll remember some of this from our strategic planning presentation. We have launched our new electronic onboarding and personnel file system, and we are working on launching our professional learning platform and evaluation platform. We're looking to improve employee compensation and benefits with an implementation next school year, 21-22. And we have partnerships with Teach for America, Alder Graduate School of Education, San Mateo County Office of Ed, Summit Preparatory, Charter High School, Marshall Teacher Residency Program. All of those are to improve our teacher recruitment pipeline and retention. And then we're also working with Facebook Teacher Housing Project to provide affordable housing for our teachers. And this year we'll be launching 2 new partnerships with Manzanita. One is for a transit cooperative to help our super commuters, and the other is a childcare cooperative to help provide affordable childcare for our staff. And how we measure the Broad Goal 3 metrics are around teacher misassignments, teacher vacancies, the percentage of staff retained in each category based on their years of experience, and the percentage of staff based on their credential.
And then Broad Goal 4 focuses on partnering with families and the community to support the whole child. So we will be establishing a family engagement committee. We have started meeting as a school culture and climate committee. and we'll establish a family and community engagement coordinator position. And we really want to improve our communication with families. We'll also provide professional development for staff on partnering with families and building an inclusive classroom environments. And we'll evaluate our ongoing partnerships to ensure they support our community's needs and align with the district goals. We'll try to provide different events for families, including the Parent University, evening events, and weekly workshops for families. And we'll measure our success towards Broad Goal 4 with the completion rate of the panorama surveys by the percentage of families. Well, the completion rate for the California Healthy Kids Survey, also by percentage of families completing the survey, and then regular participation at the school site council and ELAC meetings, and then family involvement and participation on the school climate and culture committee.
So now we'll share about our focus goals and the accompanying actions and metrics. So as I mentioned before, our focus goals were developed in response to our district data, which at this point is from our 2019 state dashboard. Excuse me, so slightly on the older side, but still definitely relevant for helping us reflect on how we're doing as a district serving our students and the more specific goals that we want to set moving forward. Part of many of the stakeholder engagement sessions that Gina mentioned in the introduction were giving stakeholders the opportunity to look at some of that data and consider, what needs is this data showing and what are some actions we should take to better serve students. So here are the goals that resulted from that input. For focus goal 1, I'll turn it over to Jennifer Graham, our Director of Special Education.
I am incredibly excited about Focus Goal 1. Focus Goal 1 is by June 2022, Ravenswood students with an IEP will increase their reading levels on local assessments to meet their reading goals as identified in their IEP. We were just in the process today of developing our tracking system to streamline student progress, and we're going to be piloting that with our extended school year students this summer. We will be doing professional development that my program specialist and I will be engaging with our teachers using Sonday, our intervention curriculum, as well as assessing student progress every 6 weeks and tracking our data and doing progress monitoring throughout the year. So we'll measure this by the percentage of students who fully met or exceeded their IEP goals, as well as the percent of students who've partially met their goals as stated in their IEP. And now I will shift it over to, I don't recall.
It's me.
To Laura.
I'm back. So focus goal 2 is around mathematics, and our data showed that we specifically wanted to focus on middle school mathematics. So our focus goal is by June 2022, Ravenswood Middle School students will demonstrate growth in 2 key Common Core standards for mathematical practices. SMP 1, making sense of problems and persevering in solving them, and SMP 3, constructing viable arguments and critiquing the reasoning of others. So we chose those standards for mathematical practice as an area of focus because the standards for mathematical practice in general describe the different skills and behaviors that we want students to have to be strong mathematicians. So through strengthening these skills, we think that that can actually help students access and improve on math content in general. A few of the actions for this focus goal are to provide professional development opportunities to our teachers through resources such as the Silicon Valley Math Institute, also known as SVMI, to support regular math department collaboration focused on student talk, analysis of student work, and the standards for mathematical practice that I just mentioned, and also to support 6-8 math teachers to consider how we're assessing student proficiency and growth in those practices over time. So a few of the metrics we'll use for this goal are looking at the percentage of students at or above grade level in math, and then also looking at student growth. Focus goal 3 is around our English learners. when we looked a little more closely at our EL data, we noticed that we were not reclassifying as high a number of English learners as we want to. And in particular, there were times when students were scoring a level 4 on the LPAC, so the state English language assessment, which is the highest level, but we're not able to reclassify because of the other criteria, which include things like report card grades in English language arts and local assessment performance. So we really want to focus in on that very specific group of students and increase the percentage of students who are reclassifying. So our goal is by June 2022, 50% of our students who are English learners at a level 4 on the LPAC will be reclassified. And a few of our actions in this area are principals, teachers, coaches, and district leaders will review data for student reclassification periodically throughout the year, so including both the LPAC scores and the other criteria that I mentioned. Providing professional development and follow-up for leaders and teachers to provide more targeted ELD instruction for students at that level, and to improve communication to all stakeholders around the reclassification timeline. So a few of our metrics for this goal will be their reclassification rate and data tracking for English learner students around the different reclassification criteria.
Focus Goal 4 focuses on our chronic absenteeism, and we want to decrease that rate by 10 percentage points. In order to do that, we feel that improving communications with families will be one of our highest leverage activities that we can do. And so in order to do that, we want to provide work cell phones for school site staff, nurses, and health aides to allow text-based communication. We want to communicate with our families in every single way possible. So whether that's through our parent square system, whether it's through email or mailings or flyers sent home when we're in person, or text messaging, we just want to be able to communicate with our families in any way that they prefer. And with some of our mailings, we would partner with Everyday Labs to communicate about attendance. Currently, through the Big Lift, they send mailings home for our TK2 students regarding attendance, and we'd like to expand that to go all the way up to 8th grade. And we want to continue that communication regarding attendance before we need to move towards any punitive measures regarding the SARD process for families. We also want to recognize and provide rewards for families or for students with high or improved attendance, and then continued review and analysis of the attendance data. And we would measure this progress towards this goal through our attendance rates and then our chronic absenteeism rates at the end of each trimester.
So here's a recap of our 4 broad goals and our 4 focus goals, just for your reference. So now I'll explain the section called Increased or Improved Services. So this is a section that you can read in our full LCAP. And this section is included because we are obligated to explain what are the specific needs or circumstances of our unduplicated pupils. And so for any district, that is students who are designated as low income, homeless foster youth, and English learners. And then we need to respond in this section to explain which LCAP actions specifically support the needs of these students, and how is the action listed intended to help achieve the associated goal. And so you may be thinking, I think many or most or almost all of our students fall in those categories. And that's very true. So in some senses, all of our LCAP applies. But what we tried to do in this section is to think, what are the actions that we're including in our LCAP, less so because they serve as base services, but more so to try to target the specific needs of our students. So this is a list of the actions across our different goals that fall into that category. And in the full LCAP, you can also see then what are the associated expenditures with each of these actions that help sort of explain the total budget picture. So for example, helping to explain how we use one part of LCFF funding from the state called supplemental or concentration funds, which are state funds that are supposed to be directed specifically towards efforts supporting our unduplicated pupils. And these are goals and actions we've shared already. These are just the ones that are specifically designated towards increased or improved services. So now for the budget overview, I'm going to hand it over to Will Eager, our CBO.
Good evening, trustees. As part of the LCAP, as Laura was mentioning, we've tied every line in the budget to a specific part of the LCAP. That's a good bit more detailed than I think what we're showing here. On the left, you can see the just budget overview for parents. This is a document that the state asked us to post. In my opinion, it's a little bit less detailed than what you're going to see on the right and what we posted on our website earlier today. It goes into quite a bit more detail about how we're actually implementing all the amazing things that Laura and the rest of the team have talked about in this presentation. I'm not going to talk too much more about this because we're going to talk a lot more about this over the next couple of hours. But I do want to let folks know that if they are interested in seeing the budget overview for parents, it is available on our website, as will be the details that we're presenting in the hearing just after this.
I really appreciate the hard work that our staff has done to pull in the input from all of our stakeholders to present to the trustees, our local control accountability plan. And so I'd like to now allow this time for any questions the board might have.
I will open the floor to any comments, feedback. I see a hand.
Through the chair.
Trustee Alexander.
For focus goal number 3, it specifically said more ELD for level 4 students who are already at level 4 in the LPAC. If they're already at level 4, and the reason they're not being reclassified is because of their literacy and how they perform on literacy evaluations, reading and writing. Shouldn't that goal also say more focused ELD and literacy instruction?
Yeah, I can address that. So any ELD instruction includes both integrated ELD, so addressing the needs of English learners in all of our content areas and making that content accessible to English learners and developing academic language, and designated ELD, so instruction that's specific to the student's level. So there's a few different things that are kind of wrapped up in that bullet note. One is that this is a great opportunity for us to learn more as a staff about the specific language needs for students at that higher level. We do sometimes have students who stall out in their growth and remain English learners for more years than we really want them to, because we want them to reclassify. Eventually in middle school, these students become long-term English learners. So we have a couple initiatives in the works for next year to support teachers to learn about the specific needs of these students. And then 2, another part of this focus goal is to look at that data and really try to unpack what are the barriers to reclassification for these students? Because I did list the criteria, but diving more deeply into the data itself to understand those barriers is something that we have in the works for next year. And then that's exactly the intention, to know, how do we respond? How do we adjust our instruction appropriately?
All right, thank you. And then through the chair, I also had a question about focus goal number 4. And my question is, more district cell phones? Mr. Eager, you understand exactly what I'm talking about on that one?
I don't know that we're proposing adding more district cell phones. I believe this reflects a continuation of the total number of district cell phones. We're constantly looking at ways to reduce costs. We're constantly monitoring. We've been constantly this year monitoring cell phone use and are going to be exploring ways to make sure that only people who need cell phones are using them. But this does not represent a increased number of cell phones for a whole bunch of new staff. If that was the question there, Trustee Alexander.
Yeah, I have a comment about goal number 4 as well. I think that there needs to be a level of innovation when it comes to outreach. Has the district ever thought of starting a campaign to talk about the culture of attending school? I know that it sounds like something trivial, but I think that the perception or just the thought of attending school, I feel like it needs to change. I think that there needs to be a way that we can form, if it's a social media campaign or whatever, that we can start outreaching in a way that has people excited, like, oh, it's not, oh, I'm going to school today, but I'm going to school today. Does anybody get what I'm saying? Just thinking of other creative ways, because I know that we can continue to call their phones, but if they're putting their great grandma or great aunt's phone number and it's never actually reaching the parent or they're not responding, I just feel like there needs to be some type of innovative way. I'm not saying for people to show up at people's houses unless staff want to, but I just feel like there needs to be a little bit more attention around that.
Trustee Latu, I think to your point, that's why we're really excited about our summer learning program and our goal to make school fun, to make learning fun. And if students are having a great time at school, families won't have a problem bringing and getting their kids motivated to come to school. So we are looking at how to ensure that we connect with our students. We emphasize, and we've said this many times, if we want to know our students well so that we can teach them well. And if we know them well, then we are knowing what types of strategies to engage and support our students. And so that's the angle we're tackling first, is kids wanting and not even having an issue with mom or dad trying to get them to school because they want to come to school. And we hope our summer program can lay the foundation of what that could look like, more hands-on projects, focusing on science, and enrichment programs too, to help lock in and hook kids into school again. Cindy, did you want to add?
Yeah, I think just to continue your comments in terms of knowing the students really well, I think this focus goal 4 also kind of aligns with our broad goal 2, and like in that we want to build really strong relationships with kids and families so that they want to be at school. You know, the strongest relationship and the best touch points are really going to be between students and teachers. And so if we can build a strong foundation for those relationships, that will be able to help mitigate some of the absenteeisms. And then really connecting with families so that they feel comfortable to share with us if they are struggling with certain things, so that we can provide those resources and help remove any barriers that they are experiencing.
But I'm all down with the campaign and trying to promote what we have to offer, the encouragement, the enrichment, the social emotional connection that we're trying to make with students, and the importance of school, and what the end game is, like some form of incentive, right, to also maybe encourage the goal to attend college. So we are exploring some different avenues.
Yeah, I just feel like there needs to be some type of campaign, because I feel like as a district, we're different than we were last year. We're different than we were 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. And I feel like we have a lot of great things, and we need to be able to market it in a way that the community knows that, hey, we're not the same Ravenswood. Like, we're a newer, better version than we were last year, and we're only getting better every year. So yes, do we have any other comments from the board? I see a hand from the public. I see no comments, so I will open the floor to the public.
So
Sorry, just to process, the board should make a motion to open the public hearing and vote on that and then open it up for the public.
Noted.
Tony.
I will entertain a motion to open the floor.
I will make a motion to open the floor for public comment.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Roll call, please.
President Latu,
I'll second.
Aye.
Vice President Shabomahid,
Aye.
Trustee Alexander,
Aye.
Trustee Polito,
Aye.
Trustee Bloom.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. We will officially open the floor for this public hearing.
Through the chair, I've already promoted Louis Dezuti. He's the panelist or the attendee that had his hand up. So
Thank
Mr.
you.
Dezuti, you're free to speak.
Thank you very much. I appreciate getting this opportunity. We just recently conducted a student survey created by one of our students. And one of the main points that most of our students had made was they wanted to have classes that were relevant to real life. And they wanted to learn life skills, such as balancing a checkbook. Not that we use checkbooks anymore, but that sort of thing. And learning how to manage finances. So I think along with all this is if we work at making a clear line between education and real life, that the students would be more engaged. If they could see that coming to school and learning what they do learn has an impact on what they're going to do later on in life, and that math, for instance, can be applied in everyday life, whether they realize it or not, that a quarter cup of flour is 1/4 of a whole. So that learning fractions has some application in their life. So I think that if we can get or form the curriculum to be more of a direct line to the rest of their lives, I think they'll be more willing to come to school and less likely to stay at home or try to ditch school in some other fashion.
Thank you. The floor is open, so if you wish to address the board, now is the time. I see no more hands. Do we have any other comments from the board?
Through the chair,
Trustee Polito?
to the speaker's point, Superintendent Sadaria, could you talk about because I know, I think a couple years back, we even adopted a curriculum that was more project-based so that students can feel more engaged and be more hands-on with what's happening in the classroom, of what we're currently doing to increase that engagement for our students. To his point, I visited some schools, and I think one of the areas where we do need more creativity is on how not just having our students physically present but engaged. So there's a piece about getting our students into the classroom, right? So getting them motivated to go to school, and then once they're in school, having them be engaged in the curriculum and instruction and what's going on in their classroom, so they're learning and they're retaining and they're growing.
I could briefly respond and indicate that we definitely are working towards making sure that not only are they in the seats, but they are active learners and their voices are amplified. So we're already in the process of trying to determine how to restart and redo school for the fall. We this morning, as a matter of fact, connected with a site administrator in a school in Oakland, and this school site was referred to us by one of our executive coaches as doing things that really encourage student voices to be heard and that are active learners in their day-to-day education, as well as how to engage families, as well as how do we make sure that the decisions and things that we do on a day-to-day basis, I keep using this term, is definitely anti-racist, and we incorporate the cultures of the community into our instruction and make it applicable, make learning applicable. So we did that this morning. Actually, all of our cabinet members were in attendance, and we look forward to sharing a little bit of what we've learned in the board memo. But we'll definitely be incorporating that as we plan for 21-22.
Wonderful, thank you. Do we have any other comments? I see none. So unless we have any other comment, I will adjourn the public hearing for the LCAP and move on to.
Actually, Trustee Lachi will need to take action to adjourn.
My bad. Going back, I will entertain a motion to close public comment, open session, public comment.
I should know this by now through the chair. I'm not sure if I'm closing the hearing or just the public comments. So
Oh, it's the hearing, correct?
I'm adjourning the hearing, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're right.
Thank you. So through the chair, I'd like to make a motion to close the hearing.
I will second.
Roll call, please.
President Latu.
Aye.
Vice President Shibome.
Aye.
Trustee Alexander.
Aye.
Trustee Polito.
Aye.
Trustee Bloom.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Now we will move on to item 6B, which is the public hearing on the 2021-2022 Ravenswood City School District proposed budget.
Great. Well, you'll be able to share the presentation. Awesome. So trustees, as we did with the LCAP, tonight we are presenting to you our proposed budget for 21-22 school year for your input, as well as input from the community. And again, we will then bring back the budget for your approval, incorporating any direction that you have provided. Go ahead, Phil. So as we discussed in the budget study session, I believe back in April, we shared with you that we're trying to achieve three things in our 21-22 budget. And one of the main things is implementing our strategic plan. And as we shared in our presentation earlier, the strategic plan is where we have and want to make some significant improvements and changes. And I think the board would agree that prior to the pandemic, there needed to be changes as our academic program was not and has not been effective. And so in our strategic plan, we've outlined these changes and we've aligned our budget to meet the ability to be able to implement our strategic plan. We also want to focus on recruiting, retaining highly effective team members. And you can see the overlap in all that we've been discussing around the LCAP, the strategic plan. Tony has mentioned this also, is the emphasis on needing to make sure that we support and find a way to significantly make changes to the compensation. As you know, our staff makes significantly less in comparison to neighboring districts, and we need to address this sooner than later. And I think we're primed to be able to do this now. And we want to not only address compensation, but also look at the teacher performance system and evaluation tools that we have, and then also continue to figure out how to really celebrate our high performing staff. And we can't just throw this, money at this. We have to make sure that we can do this and sustain this for a long period of time. And we are actually looking forward to having conversations with both of our bargaining units to see how we can do this over this summer. And then, of course, with the pandemic, we want to address accelerate, how we are going to accelerate the learning of our students. And we need to do this in thinking about short-term impact and as well as the long-term. We have several initiatives around how to address this, and we're looking forward to sharing this with you as we lay out our plans, like high dosage tutoring, extended school year, and other strategies to improve and accelerate the learning of our students. Now, there are some things that we are tackling. It's a little bit complex, and we need to do this tactily. And this budget is going to navigate towards broader aims. So just to share with you, the big picture here of the complexity is that we are going to make significant investments, about $5 million plus, to increase the performance of our overall per pupil expenditure to the highest in Ravenswood's history. So in comparison, you can be able to see what our numbers look like, our financial expense towards pupil expenditure, I should say, in comparison to other districts. It's going to be quite comparable. In addition to that, at the same time, we need to make reductions close to $2 million. And these are targeted reductions across schools in the district office. And again, during the budget study session, we shared with you where some of those reductions were. At the same time, we are going to, and we are able to reorganize our spending to set aside additional funding for future years to make sure that our expenditures go smoothly over time instead of quickly crashing, right? And then we are also releasing an unprecedented amount of budget detail and want to be as transparent as possible. So in this presentation towards the end, you'll have additional documents to be able to review. The business office as well has done a lot of work in making sure that the transparency of how we spend our money at the site and central office level is made available at the fingertips of anybody who goes to our website. And so there is an interactive budget website for people to look through and determine how we are allocating our funds. And so Will is going to take us through our budget this year, for the 21-22 school year. And he's done his due diligence of incorporating all of our budget owners, which are directors and site principals, and bring this to you tonight. So thank you, Will.
Thank you, thank you, Superintendent Sadaria. So we're going to walk through the revenue, the expenditure, and then the multi-year sort of spending plan. We'll go relatively quickly through some of these things, knowing that we've covered a lot of this material before. And as Superintendent Sadaria outlined on the prior slide, it's a complicated confluence of events, right? We have record spending, and we have a need to really shrink the district's expenditures in line with enrollment so that we're financially stable at the same time and well positioned to make investments in our staff, right? So that we can be financially competitive. At the same time, there's still a lot changing. Not as much as last year when we presented the budget, but still a lot. We have significant amounts of stimulus money. We're still working on spending large amounts of our Title I money. We have a bit of hold harmless window here to sort of save some money. We have large contributions, as we'll see from refs. So we have all of these things happening in the background, and it's tricky to navigate this and make sure that we're not headed towards, when all this one-time money runs out, we're not headed towards a big cliff, but that we're sort of setting ourselves up to save a little bit of money in this past fiscal year. The fiscal year is ongoing for another couple weeks, as well as next year. So let's start just by talking about the revenue. So one of the things that I mentioned just now, based on the enrollment declines that we've seen in 2022, 2023, so next fiscal year, we can expect a $4 to $5 million reduction in revenue. That's basically just due to enrollment declines, but it is coming. At the same time, we're also thinking about, how can we spend $4 to $5 million, maybe a little bit more, in stimulus funds over the next few years, but that money is also going to phase out. So when those two things combine to leave, that's a really big, that's a 20% or so drop in revenue from what it is right now. It's just a very large step down. That's sort of the challenges that we're seeing, but there's been a lot of really exciting news for us. One, just to name, refs has grown really significantly. We're expecting over $6 million in donations this year, potentially a bit more than that. And that's compared to $3 million or so in the recent past. Other opportunities we're seeing are we're getting closer as enrollment continues to decline into basic aid. We are right on the cusp. I think we've talked about sort of flipping back and forth. I think we ended in basic aid for SY 2021. We're mostly expecting to be in LCFF next year. So for those of you who, just as a quick refresher, basic aid is sort of a mix of rising property taxes and declining enrollment. So it's the actual value of homes and commercial entities in East Palo Alto that's going up. And that's above the level of state funding we would get, that LCFF number. The other sort of big opportunities that we're seeing, I think, we talked about this, and the board has now approved 2 resolutions, one for 2120 Euclid and one for the flood site. But depending on the path that we choose to go there, that could create large and reliable revenue streams for the district that could help offset in large part the reductions we're seeing from declining enrollment. And finally, I think this has just been, we're seeing some sort of sparks of this, but it does feel like the governor's budget and the proposals that we've seen in the budget are overall moving the overall state budget and the county budget towards just a greater emphasis on addressing some of the funding inequities that we've seen. And we will show those funding inequities are not gone, as we'll see on some of the other slides comparing us to some of the neighboring districts. But we've seen sort of, I think, good movement there. And if that continues, that would obviously bode well for a district like ours, which serves, as a percentage of students among the highest rate of high needs students in the state. I've shown this graph a number of times, and I think just wanted to highlight, we've seen declining enrollment. Our hope is that it starts to stabilize next year. And so we may see a drop again next year, but our hope is that over time, this really starts to level out more. So this might be from 2021 to 21-22, sort of the last year of big enrollment drops. And we've seen some hopeful signs of that sort of slowing down. And as a reminder, the enrollment historically, when we've been an LCFF district, has been the main driver of our revenue. That may change if we switch over into basic aid. As mentioned too, just to sort of put an obvious graph together, this is stimulus funds. We're hoping to spend those. We have about $20 million, $18 million or so of stimulus funds. We're hoping to spend the bulk of those in 21-22 and 22-23. And then those, without anything that we would do, would just sort of go to zero. So if you combine these two, sort of the hold harmless that we're seeing from our enrollment perspective and the stimulus funds, you can see our revenue this year is kind of peaking, right? We have the stimulus funds and we have that LCFF hold harmless because our enrollment's based on that trailing year, right? So the first thing that's going to hit is that $4 million LCFF fiscal cliff, which will hit in 22-23. And then when we lose that stimulus funding in 23-24, that's that 11 million drop. That's that sort of big cliff that we're worried about. And in the business office, it's sort of what we're thinking about. So it's keeping us up at night of How do we make sure that that does not feel as bad as that looks? So we'll talk a little bit about that in some of the multi-year planning section. But for now, I just wanted to talk about some of the things that we're doing. I think this came up in the April study session of just, we're doing a lot to try and bring in new money. And that's an important thing that we can be doing on the revenue side. The first and foremost is, we're taking steps to bring students back into the district. I think Superintendent Zara and I have joked, that's like all we do, right? The whole district leadership team, all we're focused on is creating really high quality schools that people want to go to. And that's what the whole budget's all about. I think there's some smaller things we can do around banners and committees and getting folks out, making it easier for students to enroll. We're doing those things as well. But that's sort of, I think, that the first and foremost priority for us. The second thing, again, we really are looking at new revenue through competitive leases. We've made progress on that, such as Brentwood and Menlo Oaks, both of which bring in a sizable amount of money for the district. We've also, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, but the 491 O'Connor lease would also bring in additional revenue. Not as much as Brentwood or Menlo Oaks, but still significant money. And then we have a lot of opportunity through leasing the flood site and 2120 Euclid, although those are still longer term projects. It's still going to take several years for us to see revenue from those sites, which is why it's so imperative that we act quickly and why we appreciate the board authorizing resolutions to lease those sites. We're also just, we're constantly working with our partners at REF to try and bring in new money. And I think we've done a whole lot of work to pursue outside grants, whether that's ACES funding, whether that's some of the work we've been doing recently on partnerships with the city to go after state money for things, but for facilities, but we're constantly looking at sort of ways to find new opportunities to bring in additional resources to the district. And then finally, we're just carefully watching the district's transition to basic aid. I think, long-term, that's something we've seen a lot of the neighboring districts do. I think that could obviously provide a bit of a funding floor for us, which would obviously be very helpful. So we're sort of keeping an eye on how that may go. Although we are planning conservatively, we are planning on sort of remaining an LCFF district in the near term. Any questions on the revenue side before I turn over to the expenditure side of the house? Great. So I shared this last year, I think around the time I started. This is a little bit out of date. You'll notice that the 17-18 numbers, these were from the ERS study last summer. ERS is Education Resource Strategies, one of the leading sort of education financial groups. And they looked at, how are we doing compared to some of the other districts in the county? And what we found is we're actually reasonably high on the revenue side, although still quite a bit lower than some of the neighboring districts. And we sort of reran that again this year. And we just wanted to highlight, one, most people are up. So this is looking at 17-18 and this is looking at 19-20, so 2 years later. You'll notice our numbers are 21-22. We're at $26,600 per student, which is a lot of money. National average, I haven't looked at it recently, but usually it was around like $14,000, $15,000, $16,000. So we're well above the national average. We're well above much of the county now. Before, you'll remember, we were above much of the county, but not quite to the same extent. Another way to look at it is at $26,000 per kid, we now have about as much money as Woodside and Portola Valley had, 4 years ago, before the pandemic, before we got all of this stimulus money. Now, that doesn't mean, and I hope no one listening would interpret this as we are a rich district. The same piece of division that we did last time is we just took the state's sort of formula. You may remember the state has a formula to calculate levels of student need, which is the basis of their approach. And it creates sort of this idea of a weighted pupil. And it says, homeless students, English learners, special education students, they're harder to educate, so that, we're gonna give them a little bit more money. If we just divide by the state's weights, what we see is instead of being out here on the right with sort of the high money districts, we're back in the middle again. Right? And we're really close to sort of the rest of the districts in the county. So it's worth remembering that even though we're getting more money than the districts ever had to spend per pupil, when you account for need, we're still sort of middle of the pack and well below districts like Portola Valley, Woodside, our neighbors in Menlo Park. So it's just, I think at the same time, on the one hand, we do have a lot of money. But I wouldn't want anyone to come out of here thinking, it's enough, or that it's we've achieved equity. And so I think we've been encouraged by the state and the county sort of pushing more of this, but it is worth remembering all the stimulus money basically gets us to about average in the county, right? All of this one-time money gets us to about average in the county. Still, it is quite a bit, and it does represent a massive increase over what we've seen in the past. So I think, as Gina mentioned, this is sort of a tricky budget in that we are making reductions, but at the same time, this is the most per pupil that we've spent as a district in, in certainly recent memory and likely of all time. Just wanted to give a quick update just on a couple of different things about where the money's going. And you can see this on our budget transparency website, which we will talk through soon. But a good chunk of the money is going to schools, and then this sort of middle category, which we call school services budgeted centrally, SSBC. And those are things that the central office controls, but really are sort of school supports. The biggest of which is special education. A lot of that sort of funds, and if you go look at it, you'll see it in Jennifer's budget. But these are really special education teachers, paraeducators that are really serving students directly in schools. And then you'll see about 10% of our budget or so is our central office. And then a small portion is going to students who are attending schools outside of the district. So sort of a little bit of a gray category. As we talked about at our budget study session, we've made a pretty big effort. This is one of the things that we really heard loud and clear of. Let's shift expenditures into people, not stuff or consultants or outside things. And a lot of what's in this budget now, more than I think we saw at the start of last year, is going into people. We are really making conscious investments in our staff and trying to sort of bring on more people instead of buying more things. And so, this year, maybe 75% or so of our budget is going into personnel, so salaries and benefits. And then most of our people are educators. I'm thinking this graph might be slightly mislabeled. I'm looking at it now. I don't think district administration is quite as big as it's represented here. Most of our budget goes to teachers. I think this should be other instructional staff, a small portion of MOT, as well as some administrators along the way. We also talked a little bit about, at the beginning, the investments that we're making in various areas. And we just wanted to call attention to some of these. And a lot of these are already highlighted in the LCAP, class size reduction, technology upgrades, extended day across the school, new curriculum, PD opportunities this summer. We've talked about this before, but a third of our students are going to be in summer school this year. That's really exciting. More intervention, more high dosage tutoring, more just getting supports directly to students. More support for our school leaders, the vice principals at Castagna and Belhaven. That's a lot of exciting new investments to do in a short amount of time. We're very grateful for the stimulus funds, the ref support, and the other sort of unique opportunities we have to make that happen this year. I do want to just spend a moment to just show that our budget website, we're pretty excited about it. We spent a bit of time revamping this, and just so the community and our board members know, you can go on. This is a live look. I'm a little bit nervous about unveiling a website live. Seems kind of high risk. But you can go into budget and finance here in our business service page, and you can see a couple of things. One, we just cleaned some of this up, so you can see our past financial reports by period. You can see our budget memos and presentations along the way, and relative ease. So if you want to sort of go back historically, you're welcome to. And then we have our budget website here. And so you can take a look and you can kind of get a sense just as to sort of where things are going. You can click in and you can see some of our school budgets. Here they are by order of magnitude. And then you can kind of see, where that money is going. So if you wanted to say, I wonder what Belhaven's spending money on, click in and find out. And you might be thinking to yourself, gosh, I hear we're getting a lot of stimulus money. Which of these things are on stimulus? Which of these things are on general fund? Click in grant name and you can see all of that again. So you can see, here's the middle school. Here are the things that they're choosing to spend money on. And here's how they're funding those different things. If this isn't enough detail for you, and maybe for some of our members in the community, it's not, you also have central office here. So you can see that same look for central office, see how we're sort of spending our money and how money flows through. You can also click up here where we say download data. and you can download the underlying files that contain all of this information. And in this, you can see sort of the information, the amounts, as well as just a brief description describing what some of these things are, as well as the number of students served and the cost per student. There's a lot of information in this. I'm not sure we're gonna be able to get through all of it tonight, but we are excited. Just if people wanna go on and see what's in our budget, you are absolutely welcome to. You can chase down things, see if you can find things, and let us know if there's things that you find that you have questions about, wanna know more about, or just sort of intrigued and want to engage and click around and just sort of explore, how we're doing some of these initiatives and where they sit in the overall budget. And that is, again, live on our website right now. So if you're thinking, I've already seen parts of this presentation before, is there something I can go click around to get a little bit more in depth in the tables in the back? That is a real opportunity for you right now. So I want to just wrap up at the end here by talking a little bit. Oh, I'm sorry. Any questions I can answer on the expenditure side? Great. So I want to just talk a little bit. I know we talked about this before. I just wanted to provide a quick update here. So as mentioned before, we're planning on seeing this drop in our revenue in two areas, the LCFF and stimulus funds. Obviously, in other areas like our rental revenue, revenue is stable. But in these two areas, we're expecting this big drop. And so what we're trying to do is manage this drop in a way that allows us to not necessarily link our revenue and our expenditures directly, but decouple them slightly so that our expenditure slows down relative to our revenue. So our expenditure sort of glides down a little bit more, as Superintendent Sedaria said earlier. In order for us to do that, remember this gray line is our revenue from 2 slides ago, we're going to try and run some surpluses. We're hoping to, I think we started 2021 with a $1 million and change deficit in the general fund. And I think we're going to flip that into a modest surplus. We're hoping to mirror that again in 21-22 and in 22-23. We're hoping to run general fund surpluses so that we can then run intentional deficits over the 3 ensuing years. So I hope no one would look at our budget and say, Ravenswood sitting on a bunch of money. That's not correct. We're one, spending more money than we've ever spent before as a district on a per pupil basis. And 2, we're very intentionally saving for a rainy day in the near future. This isn't some hypothetical risk. This is pretty clear risk here in 23-24. And so what we're trying to do, that sort of tricky balance that Superintendent Sedaria talked about at the beginning, is we're trying to invest as much as we can in students to really boost outcomes. We're doing all the amazing things that Laura talked about in the LCAP and saving a bit so that this fiscal cliff is really more of a sort of gradual glide down. And we're able to really invest in what we know and we find works over the next few years. So just to sort of put all that together, our hope here is that this year we'll be able to save somewhere between $1 and $3 million. We've been working pretty hard to move some things around and be strategic about how we are able to sort of put things into longer term saving accounts. In the next 2 years, we're hoping to set aside about an additional $2 to $3 million or so each year. That'll hopefully combine to about $6 to $8 million or so, which will allow us to run modest deficits in 23-24 and 24-25, so that we're able to maintain a lot of the investments that we're making in the short term. A lot of the investments we're making now, we'll be able to sustain over sort of the moderate term. The plan is that we'll put either, this is a little bit wonky here, but I do want to make our budget reflect this. And so what we're going to do, and it hasn't quite happened yet, but we're hoping to put some of these funds in Fund 17 instead of just having it sit in a general fund. Fund 17 is a part of the budget that sort of allows you to run like a special savings account. And we're going to hopefully, the plan is to basically put some of these monies into that special savings account so that people can see, we're not just running a big general fund surplus. This is a strategic effort to put things away, squirrel them away for when the rainy day comes. And with that, I will stop. I think, as before, we put a lot of the tables here in the back, so you can look through some of the information at the school levels, the central office levels. and really sort of any member of our community who's interested can dive in and see sort of how the funds are flowing through the district. Some of this may change. This is meant to be our public hearing, not our final budget. But we do think this reflects most of the investments and most of the proposed budget for next year as of this moment.
Thank you. Do we have any comment from the board? Trustee Alexander?
I just want to say how impressed I am with the transparency budget on the website. Thank you so much for doing that. And I'm sure that every community member is going to appreciate being able to see that.
Thank you.
Any other comments? I do have 2 comments. My first one being, thank you, Will, because there were certain things that I had brought up during the study session, especially prioritizing the need to increase salary, especially within our staff. And so I see that there's a plan for that. And so thank you on that one. The second, the website is so easily digestible, and that's something that we need as a district. And so I feel that a lot of the times the general public thinks that when you get money for the school district, you can use it for whatever. And so I think that it's really important that the public understands kind of how, especially state funding might go, and like the specifics for that funding, and being able to clearly kind of see how the money is defined is a good way for everybody to kind of understand just, you know, what we're working with as a district. And I just like how easy it is to navigate. And it also has the previous years, which is good because you're seeing the progressive work throughout each year. And so I really appreciate that. So unless we have any more comments from the board, I will.
One more thing, President Latu, just so the community is aware and the trustees are aware, the new website is also available in Spanish, so it could be accessible by everybody.
Wonderful. That's just like cherry on top. So now I will entertain a motion to open the floor for public comment.
I will make a motion to open the floor for public comment.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Roll call, please.
President Latu,
Aye.
Vice President Shibomihin,
Aye.
Trustee Alexander,
Aye.
Trustee Polito,
Aye.
Trustee Bloom.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. So if anybody in the public would like to speak on this subject, now is your time. I see no hands. So I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing for the Ravenswood City School District proposed budget.
Through the chair, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Thank you.
I will second.
Roll call, please.
President Latu,
Aye.
Vice President Shibomihin,
Aye.
Trustee Alexander,
Aye.
Trustee Polito,
Aye.
Trustee Bloom.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Moving on to the consent. Let me just give a hand clap really quick. That was a lot that we just digested in that amount of time. So now we will go on to item number 7, which is the consent agenda. If we don't have any comments, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Through the chair, I'll make a motion to approve item 7, the consent agenda.
Thank you.
Second.
Roll call, please.
President Latu,
Aye.
Vice President Shabomaheen,
Aye.
Trustee Alexander,
Aye.
Trustee Polito,
Aye.
Trustee Bloom.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. We will move on to item number 8, which is special recognition.
I'll be sharing my screen as Trustee Polito will kick us off on staff recognition. And I believe we have several of the staff who are being recognized and acknowledged today in the audience. So yeah, we'll make sure we bring them forward as the time comes. Are you able to see Trustee? Okay, great.
Yes, we can see it. Thank you, Superintendent Sidaria. So today we kick off, I believe this is the last recognition of the school year. And this is for our remaining, actually, no, we have a couple more, I think. So tonight is for our core value of excellence. And that is that we hold high expectations for ourselves and all of our students. So we have a committee that nominates, that votes, and selects the recipients. And we had some great nominations. So I believe Superintendent Sidaria will tell us more about the
Yes, thank you.
honorees.
Thank you, Trustee Polito. As you know, this is one of our strategic priorities, is being able to acknowledge and celebrate staff. And our HR Director, Tony Stone, has led the way in putting this in place. And as Trustee Polito has mentioned, there is a committee. And tonight, the committee has moved forward to honor our first staff member, Nicole Sullivan, who is an 8th grade math science teacher at Cesar Chavez Ravenswood Middle School. And Tony will share the first comments from Sean Roper.
Nicole Sullivan is a colleague I have worked with since I started. I could tell from the first time I met her at a professional development session that this was a person who I needed to get to know. Her excellence in asking questions and gathering answers was noted. Since working with her at CCRMS, the excellence of her teaching is also remarkable. Ms. Sullivan has worked hard and taken extra coursework so that she is able to teach math to students still gaining their math skills, and also to those who show potential of doing work above expectations. She teaches AVID to 8th graders and models excellence in expectations and behavior. When interacting with Ms. Sullivan, all understand they are in the midst of someone whose goal is excellence.
And Andrea Reina continues to share that Nicole Sullivan epitomizes excellence in teaching. As her partner teacher, I constantly see how she guides our students to academic excellence. As a member of the instructional leadership team and department lead, she guides her colleagues in pursuing excellence in teaching. Her pursuit of excellence goes beyond her classroom and extends to all CCRMS and the entire district. Besides the core curriculum, our students learn about engineering and essential life skills such as financial literacy. She steps up further by teaching algebra to give students a leg up with high school and university readiness. Ms. Sullivan is a warm demander with a wonderful sense of humor. Our students thrive under her mentorship. I am constantly in awe of her skills and endeavors to serve our students in the same way she does. And Ms. Sullivan, Nicole Sullivan, is here. Congratulations, Ms. Sullivan.
Thank you so much, Sean, Andrea. I love you. Thank you, everyone.
All right, our next staff member, stay there, Ms. Sullivan, don't go anywhere. Our next teacher that we are recognizing is Sean Roper. Sean is an 8th grade special education teacher at the Cesar Chavez Ravenswood Middle School, and Jennifer Grabman will share.
Sean is a ray of sunshine at CCRMS. She celebrates student excellence in a way that is inclusive of all students. Ms. Roper's excellence as an educator has a very positive impact on the entire school. Ms. Roper developed and manages a Student of the Week celebration for the 8th grade. It celebrates students who excel in a variety of modalities that makes it inclusive to the students beyond those who excel academically. She goes above and beyond by printing out certificates and mailing them to students who are in distance learning. That extra thoughtfulness ensures that all students are getting the recognition they deserve. Furthermore, Ms. Roper does the yearbook for CCRMS. She makes sure that student voices are highlighted and uplifted in the yearbook. To ensure this, she has activities for all of the 8th grade students to make their last CCRMS yearbook memorable and reflective of their time. Sean is more than an excellent teacher of exceptional students. She is a teacher whose excellence shines through the entire school.
Ms. Roper. There she is. You're muted, you're muted.
Many times I've heard students say that I'm muted after I've been talking for half an hour. I appreciate the recognition from Sarah and other teachers and my support at CCRMS. It's a great team this year. I'm really proud of us and what we've been accomplished during the distance learning and how chaotic it's been, but I think we've all risen. But I appreciate the acknowledgement from Ms. Ressler. Thank you.
We would like to next acknowledge Damiana Arroyo. She is a translator interpreter at the Cesar Chavez Ravenswood Middle School. And Cindy Chin will share.
I have worked with Ms. Arroyo since I started in 2014. Damiana has held many roles over the years and is excellent in all of these roles. Ms. Arroyo has been a prayer professional and worked one-on-one with students. Her excellence in this role was shown in how she collaborated with general and special education teachers to help her student become successful. She has been a bilingual clerk and an administrative assistant. As the assistant at the new RMS, Ms. Arroyo showed her excellence with assisting the principal. Damiana also showed her excellence in this role by working with parents and students. She knows how to show students the value she sees in them and keeps them aware of behavior and consequences. In her current role, she translates IEP documents. She makes calls to parents who speak Spanish. She interprets during meetings so that parents understand what is happening. She shares parents' concerns about their students to the rest of the team. I often refer to her as a rock star. Sean Roper, 8th grade special education teacher.
And I guess, Sean, you could have heard that too. But I believe, is Damiana here? No, okay. She often has late nights interpreting for the DLAC meetings as well. Great, and we have one more staff member to recognize. And we are proud to honor Irma Luna Corona, our paraeducator 2 at Castaño School of the Arts. And Lara will share.
Irma Luna exemplifies the core value of excellence on a day-to-day basis through her outstanding work ethic, strong relationships with students, families, and staff, and contributions to make the unique classroom a positive learning environment for all. She is punctual and carries out her duties with purpose, creating colorful bulletin boards and adding to the community theme of the classroom with her positive attitude. During Zoom sessions, Ms. Irma actively participates and helps students feel more at ease. She is a team player. When she knows there is a need, she is flexible and seeks a solution to the problem. She helps her fellow coworkers when trying new things and by sharing resources. She takes care to get to know each student, many of whom she has never supported in the past, and finds activities that match the student's academic level and interests. When supporting students, she ensures that they know what is expected of them. She challenges them to do their personal best each day across all settings and to be proud of their accomplishments. Nominated by Renee Meningding, Special Education Teacher, Castaño School of the Arts.
Fabulous. Is she here as well?
No.
Oh, there she is.
Hi, thank you for the recognition, and I'm so happy they're still helping our students reach their goals. Thank you.
Fabulous, Irma. And thank you all too who are being recognized tonight. I know there was a lot going on at the beginning of this meeting, so thank you for sticking through tonight. And it's a great pleasure to be able to honor you. Nicole, Sean, Irma, and Damiana. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we will move on to item 8B, consideration to approve proclamation recognizing June 2021 as Pride Month in the Ravenswood City School District. And I will.
We're passing this to Trustee Alexander.
Okay.
Yes.
Through the chair, so I just read it?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, okay. And I am extremely proud to read this entire proclamation. Don't worry, it's not too long. So proclamation recognizing June 2021 is LGBTQ+ Pride Month in the Ravenswood City School District. Whereas the Ravenswood City School District has a diverse lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, LGBTQ+ community and is committed to supporting visibility, dignity, and equity for all people in the community. And whereas many of the residents, students, family members, and school personnel are part of the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and questioning community who contribute greatly to the enrichment of our schools. And whereas although various advancements have been made with respect to equitable treatment of LGBTQ+ persons throughout the nation, LGBTQ+ persons still face discrimination simply for being who they are, thus making it important for districts like the Ravenswood City School District to stand up and show support for our students and families who are affected. And whereas many cities across the United States recognize and celebrate June as LGBTQ+ Pride Month, and whereas June has become a symbolic month in which LGBTQ+ persons and allies come together in various celebrations of pride to support the community's right to live their lives out loud. And whereas this year, although it is made more difficult by COVID-19 for us to physically come together as LGBTQ+ persons and allies, nonetheless, we still encourage creative ways to celebrate at a distance. And whereas the rainbow flag, also known as the LGBTQ+ pride flag or gay pride flag, has been used since the 1970s as a symbol of LGBTQ+ pride and social movements. And whereas flying the rainbow flag at the district office throughout the month of June further symbolizes the district's celebration of diversity and support for the LGBTQ+ students, families, and our school community. Now, therefore, the Ravenswood City School District does hereby declare the month of June as LGBTQ+ Pride Month in our schools and invites everyone to reflect on ways we can all live and work together with a commitment to mutual respect and understanding. And furthermore, RCSD recognizes Pride Month by flying the rainbow flag at the district office and all the school sites during the month of June 2021.
I will entertain a motion to approve the resolution recognizing June 2021 as Pride Month in the Ravenswood City School District.
I will make a motion to approve this resolution.
Thank you.
Proclamation, sorry.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I will second.
Before we go to roll call, just read just the first sentence and then we'll go to the vote.
Recognizing June 2021 as LGBTQ+ Pride Month in the Ravenswood City School District, whereas, etc.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
President Latu,
Aye.
Vice President Shabomihi,
Aye.
Trustee Alexander,
Aye.
Trustee Bloom,
Aye.
and I
And the
believe
vote- Yes, Trustee Polito is having connection issues, but a motion carries 4-0. So now we will move on to item number 9, which is curriculum and instruction.
Good evening, members of the board. It is my pleasure to introduce the speakers for this item, who will be Amanda Kemp, principal of Cesar Chavez Ravenswood Middle School, and Louis Dizzuti, teacher at Cesar Chavez Ravenswood Middle School. Amanda and Louis will present to you about the 6th through 8th grade social studies pilot and adoption process that was undertaken this year, and make a recommendation of a curriculum adoption to the board this evening. Amanda?
Good evening, Board of Trustees and Cabinet and everybody else who's watching us out on Zoom land. How are you doing? It's 9 o'clock. Okay. So we're just here to present our adoption proposal for y'all. And we went through a piloting process. We considered heavily all of our curriculum candidates, and we do have a final recommendation. With our pilot process, we had actually started, why? We really do want a social studies curriculum that best serves the need of all of our students. And so we had some very heavy lenses that we were looking through, especially with cultural representation and accessibility for our dual immersion program, because they need to have academic Spanish as they are progressing from Los Robles to us. So our piloting process, back in March of 2019, our selection committee formed. And then by May of 2019, we definitely realized that we couldn't do this during a pandemic. So we put everything on hold. We spent a little bit of time to kind of figure it out and work through everything. And we definitely took the time for the criteria selection tool and went through all the meetings. Sent out our proposal letter in September because we knew we needed to just keep pushing forward. And our selection committee, which Louis Dizzuti was one of the main chair on, selected Discovery Ed and McGraw-Hill Impact to pilot in conjunction with the fact that we already use Summit Learning and TCI. So we began with Summit and TCI for October through December, and then made sure we had a scope and sequence so the kids did not miss anything as we tried on new curriculum, Discovery Ed, and then McGraw-Hill. We met at grade level meetings and in committee meetings to compare all the needs using the rubrics. And then we met with the publishers back in May to clarify any questions that we had. And then we presented to the parents. When I say June, it was today. So our curriculum candidates were Summit Learning, our own online platform. They had their own online platform. They are project-based with checkpoints. They are not formally translated into Spanish, and they were missing a chronology that comes with history. And they weren't content standards aligned, and we've been doing a lot of work through that. TCI has a textbook and is online, is available in academic Spanish for dual immersion, aligns with the Google Classroom. It has consumables and has updated the content to align with our current standards regarding access based on ethnicity, gender, and depth of content coverage. So they are, quite frankly, more progressive in what they are doing with our history. We were excited about Discovery Ed. They do have books and we're online. In that student survey that Mr. Dizzuti was talking about earlier, half of our kids want more time on the computers, but a large percentage of the other half really just don't want all this time strictly on computers. So we're trying to find that nice balance as well. They have consumables, and Mr. Dizzuti will talk about the criteria rubric in just a little bit. It is available in Spanish, but it was difficult to access and not all the components were translated properly or at all. And then it had difficulty working with the Google Suite, which is what our main pieces are. McGraw-Hill also had everything in the textbook format and available online. And then also had consumables, was more in depth with a criterion rubric. And then it's also available in Spanish. Would just have glitches when converting. So that was problematic during our dual immersion trial. Worked well with Google Suite, but did not talk to Clever. And so we'd have to have a whole other piece that went with just uploading everybody. And our online platform would occasionally freeze. Mr. Dezudi. Is he here? Oh, there you are. Okay.
There we go. To start again, the criteria that we had to look at was content alignment, inquiry alignment, Common Core and ELD alignment, citizenship, access and equity, assessment alignment, and local priorities. And I would say that access and equity and local priorities were of when Common and ELD alignment were of particular concern and focus for us in selecting the curriculum.
So we narrowed it down to McGraw-Hill and TCI, and we utilized all of the rubrics to compare and be data-driven, not just gut-driven, as we have talked about many a time. And then we had several questions, and we kept going back to how does this relate? How do our children see themselves in this history? And are there different perspectives? And how can we modify it if we have to, with, to reach that? And it became very clear that TCI is the most forward moving. So before, and I'm blowing the surprise. And then the teachers definitely also gathered the student input. So, we might like a book, but if a kid doesn't want to open it, touch it, work it, read it, then it's not important. So we definitely worked through that. Our final recommendation was Mr. Dezudi.
All right, so we picked TCI because it rated highly against the selection criteria that we had. Works with Clever, so that makes it easier for us. Highly liked by dual immersion program because the accessibility of both languages. Teachers and students preferred overall. Content accessibility is easier for students while also increasing language acquisition and vocabulary. And taking direct steps to be inclusive in historical narrative. I might also add, having used it in the past, they have always had more of a broad spectrum of point of view. And I think that they have probably fine-tuned it much more this year than in the past. So it made more sense for our students to recommend this to be adopted.
And that's the end of our presentation. Are there any questions?
Through the chair.
Trustee Bloom.
So I think one question I had when I first saw this, and I think we talked about it before when we were talking about the LCAP goals, is I know there is the ethnic specific or ethnic specific history that we want to teach, history about East Palo Alto, history about California in general. And I just want to make sure that even as we're adopting, just even for the public to hear too, that even as we're adopting this new curriculum, that we are still going to be incorporating those type of anti-racist information and history and knowledge to our students as well.
We are definitely doing that. We will also be adding an ethnic studies elective course as soon as we can. We want to make sure we have good curriculum that goes with it.
And if I might add too, in 8th grade, as 8th grade is U.S. history, TCI opens with Native American peoples. So the beginning of what became the United States they have a direct reference to who was here before everybody else showed up. So
thank you.
Do we have any other comment from the board? If not, I will open the floor for public comments. If you would like to speak on this subject, now is your time. I see no hands, and so I will entertain a motion to approve 9A, the consideration to approve the adoption of the TCI Social Studies curriculum for grades 6 through 8.
Through the chair, I'll make a motion to approve item 9A.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Roll call, please.
President Latu,
Aye.
Vice President Shabomahi,
Aye.
Trustee Alexander,
Aye.
and Trustee Bloom.
Aye.
I'm not sure if Trustee Polito is available.
Trustee Polito's will be dialing in, but as she's not here, motion carries 4-0. We'll continue on until she joins. Now we will move on to number 10, which is from the Business Department. 10A, consideration to approve lease with La Escuela.
La Escuela.
I should take lessons at this school.
You could. As many of you know, the primary school is moving into space at Brentwood. That lease kicked off this summer. But as part of that, the primary school was able to stay in their current space, which is 6 classrooms, a multi-use space, and then a small playground in front of the building and behind the building, next to IHSD, which is the former Ravenswood CDC. The primary school was paying us a little bit over $100,000 or so, plus a couple of other in-kind donations for that site. Their lease for that site ends, I believe, July 15th or July 14th or so. A couple of months ago, we posted a bid for that site to gather sort of interest in the site, knowing that if we were not able to fill that site or if we use that site for something else, the district would lose the revenue that was coming in from the primary school lease. We received bids from several sort of interested parties. La Escuela was the largest bid. They're also a sort of qualified applicant. They have strong financials. They're a private school with a relatively large tuition, it's about $35,000 or so at their campus in the city. I don't know that they posted tuition for this site. And they're, I think, a well-respected Italian immersion international baccalaureate program that focuses on students. I believe at this site, they're going to be targeting students as young as 3 up through about 5th grade. So they sort of met the criteria for the bid and were the highest bidder. We did explore other options, but given sort of the nature of the bid, the amount of the sort of difference between them and the next highest bid, the district made the recommendation to proceed with this. A couple of other things just to call attention to in this proposal. Unlike with the primary school, where the district was responsible for providing some utilities, maintenance support, some other sort of supports, I think, except for custodial. This lease requires us to provide no supports to the site at all. So they're responsible for maintaining the site, paying their own utilities, all of that. So that's another sort of nice win for the district. And the other thing that's just relevant to highlight in this is it is a 5-year lease, kind of a mutual option to renew. So if we choose to renew, there's a couple of things that kick in that case, but we have sort of the option to renew at that point if we so choose. But it is not as long as some of the other facility leases that we've explored in the last couple of years. Are there any questions I can answer for the trustees or the public on this proposed lease?
I will open the floor to comment from the board. I see.
Real quick.
Vice President Jovahin.
All right, President Latu, thank you very much through the chair. I'm sorry if I'm super quiet. I feel like I've had so many meetings with Mr. Eager. I feel like I know everything, and then I don't have any questions or comment once we're here on the meeting live. But I did want to say this publicly. This school approving this lease, I just want to acknowledge that this school is not in direct competition to the community here, and students. it's not carrying a threat of students in our school community leaving, which is why we're considering this lease. Well, part of the reason why it's okay to consider the lease. Just want to make that public. Sorry.
Thank you. I was going to make a note of that if you didn't. But now I will also open for public comment. If you wish to address on this matter, you can use the raise hand function. Alrighty then, I see no hands. So I will entertain a motion to approve the lease with La Escuela.
I would like to make a motion to approve the lease.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
President Latu,
Aye.
Vice President Shabal-Mahid,
Aye.
Trustee Alexander,
Aye.
Trustee Polito,
Aye.
Trustee Bloom.
Aye.
And the motion carries 5-0. Moving on to item number 11, which is 11A, which is consideration to adopt the Declaration of Need for Fully Qualified Educators.
Thank you, President Latu. So as the board is aware, every year we bring this document forward and it is required by the Commission on Teacher Credentialing. The document essentially allows the district to fulfill needed spaces if there's an insufficient number of certificated persons who meet the specified employment criteria. So this particular document will allow us to hire teachers that are in need of their CLAD, English Learner Authorization, or bilingual authorization in Spanish, or special education teachers, or single subject teaching credentials. And obviously the recommendation is that we adopt this one-year document.
Thank you. Do we have any comment from the board? I see none. Do we have any comment from the public? I see no hands, so I will entertain a motion to adopt the Declaration of Need for Fully Qualified Educators.
Through the chair, I'll make a motion to approve item 11A.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I will second.
Roll call, please.
President Latu,
Aye.
Vice President Shabal-Mahid,
Aye.
Trustee Alexander,
Aye.
Trustee Polito,
Aye.
Trustee Bloom.
Aye.
And the motion carries 5-0. We will now move on to item number 12, which is Board of Trustees. We will go down to 12B, which is Board Reports and Communications. I'm about to put Trustee Alexander on the spot, but do you have any, can you report back on how last Saturday went, please, at Belhaven?
Hi, thank you very much, President Latu. That was one of the points that I was going to bring up. Yes, the dedication ceremony on Saturday was wonderful. Trustee Bloom and I both attended, along with many people from the district office. And I think every artist who worked on the mural was also present. And Jose's niece and nephews were the ones who pulled the unveiling of the plaque. The plaque is set for people who want to know at eye level for kindergartners. So when the children are on the playground, they will be able to be eye level with Mr. Ibarra. It was just a very wonderful experience. Sorry. Words, I'm at a loss now. It was great. So, and then the only two other things that I wanted to report were, I went to Belhaven's 5th grade promotion. drive-through promotion. That was a lot of fun with lots of screaming and yelling. And I watched several of my former, they weren't students in my class, but they were students I worked with in reading intervention, and I got to see them as they promoted. And the last thing for everybody in East Palo Alto and also in the Bellhaven neighborhood, there is an organization doing looking at our canopy in East Palo Alto, i.e. the number of trees that we have, and looking to plant a whole lot more trees. It's called the East Palo Alto Urban Forestry Project, and there's a master plan. I don't know how to put the website to go for a survey, but they want as many people as possible in the community to take a survey, either living in the community or working in the community, coming into it. So that includes our teachers and other staff members on their feelings about trees. And it's going to influence how tree plantings are done in the future in East Palo Alto. So if you Google East Palo Alto Urban Forest Master Plan, it will bring you to this survey where you can take it. It's available in English, Spanish, Tongan, and Samoan. So I think we could probably get another language in. Thank you, Mr. Eager. He has put the link to the survey into the chat. So, and that's it for me. Thank you very much.
Wonderful, thank you. Do we have any other updates from the board?
Yes, through the chair. I just want to publicly apologize for not being there on Saturday. I had planned to be there alongside all of my family, all 6 of us, but we were in an unfortunate car accident Friday night, very late. Myself, Tunde, and my son going to pick up my daughters from an event. And so, so then, it was really late when we got home. And then the next day we just had to deal with police and police reports and insurance and all kinds of stuff. But that brings me to a point. So basically the accident, without giving too many details, was caused by crazy folks in an illegal car show. I don't know if that's what you call them, when people have all these people gathering on the street and they're doing donuts and racing and all of this. It was kind of traumatic. And so we just kind of rolled up on it as we were trying to go pick up my kids, and you couldn't go through the intersection because they were doing all of this. And then, they aggressively came towards us and started doing donuts in front of us, and then ended up spinning out of control and hitting and totaling our car. I just found out today, just by the way, from the estimate of the mechanic and everything. But anyway, God's in control, so I'm not worried about that. But anyway, my point is, we did some digging, Tunde and I, just about this phenomenon of car shows. And we I think we heard right there in San Jose, it had been 7 children had passed away as a result of these car shows. I know that a few weeks back, there was one actually happening in East Palo Alto at that intersection by Chevron and University. And apparently these happen all over the Bay, just kind of, just whenever someone sends out some messaging or whatever. So I was just thinking about how we as a district can advocate more for our children and students who are here. I know every day when I see people walking back and forth, or when I used to see before COVID, people walking back to school, we have no sidewalks here on my street, and there are no speed bumps, and people literally just race down the street like just knuckleheads, and you literally can't walk. I'm afraid to walk, and I'm 41 years old. I just gave my age out over the internet. Whoa. But it's insane. And I'm saying, how can we work with the district to make these streets safer, literally safer for people walking, but particularly our students. So that accident got me thinking about the children more, and, during school hours, out of school hours, and just how we can work together to, I don't know what the solution is, if it's the little circle pathways in the road, or if it's, speed bumps everywhere, but it's insane. And no one should have to deal with that kind of fear of being unsafe when they're walking, even if they're just walking to a park, during this, during the summer and things like that. So we should talk about it later.
Yeah, just through the chair.
Yeah.
Trustee Shabomaheen, I know Cindy Chin, our student service director, works with Safe Routes to School, and it's been a little challenging as we've been doing distance learning. But I think this week she's passed out lights that go on bicycles. Is that accurate, Cindy? This week or next week?
This week we dropped off bike lights, so they're the front-facing lights, so they can have kind of like that headlight when kids are riding bikes. They're rechargeable, and so every school has some to pass out to their students.
But we can look into that in terms of what to do in the fall to be more proactive and ensuring our students are safe going to and from school. And we can look into the Safe Routes to School more closely.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. I'm glad we're doing that work. And I hope we partner more with the city to do more work. Because again, this was an event for children that we were picking folks up at, and it was happening right outside. So I just hate to imagine, you know, some folks coming outside and something happening and, you know, all kinds of stuff. So glad we're working on that. So thank you. And sorry I wasn't there. I heard it was a beautiful ceremony and unveiling.
Do we have any other reports?
Yeah, through the chair, I will just
Chair,
add.
I have-
Oh, go ahead, Trustee Polito.
Oh, thank you. So I was just gonna note that I was sad I couldn't be there on Saturday, but I did visit schools this week, and I made it a point to go to the garden, go see the mural, and it was very beautiful to see that space and the way that our beloved teacher was honored and recognized for his, I believe it said read 23 years, or I don't know if it's 23 or 29 years of service. So I wanted to note that. And I also wanted to say that it was great to be able to visit our campuses again, to not only see our students back and connecting and being happy and laughing, which I really, really enjoyed, but I think it also allowed me to reflect on some of our needs as we move forward as a district together, right? We've been going back and forth about how to recruit, retain students. And I think, you know, one way that we can improve upon making our schools more desirable is just our facilities. And I know we're doing a lot of work right now around facilities, but for example, Bellhaven, I was walking to campuses and I saw so much opportunity to, you know, give it a bit of a facelift. So I feel like, so whether it was observing the condition of our facilities or going into our classrooms and seeing our kids excited about being back in the classroom and, you know, being happy about us returning fully in person in fall, it just made me think about, like, you know, rigorous instruction, engaging instruction as well. And there's just so much to be done, but I think it's not about challenges, it's about opportunities. And I'm just hoping that our community stays tuned, because we're going to be asking for their support and help as we seek to launch some additional initiatives around enhancing the student experience at our schools. And they deserve this. Our families and our students deserve it. Our community deserve it. Our staff deserve it. And it's just, I'm sure all the other trustees have had an opportunity to visit the school site since we've been back. But it just gave me a moment of reflection and of gratitude as well to our staff who are showing up and are in person with their students. For the ones that want to be back in person but are not able to yet. And for our families just being patient with us this whole year and giving us the space to figure it out and get our students back. So just a moment of, I guess, reflection and also assessment of need. But I feel like those are opportunities, and we just have to engage our community so they know what our needs are, for not just the ones that are attending our schools, but the ones that are not, right? So we have so many residents that go out there and vote and support us. We just need to keep them informed about where we're at and where we're going, so that when we go out there and ask for their support, they're ready to provide it. So that was all. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Bloom.
Yes, through the chair, I was able to go on Saturday, and it was just really great to be there, to be with so many community members and to see the impact that Mr. Ibarra had on our community and to see the beautiful garden. And I was like, I'm really glad I didn't bring my kids because they would be picking up through the carrots and the strawberries that were red. They were like red ready to go. And I also just want to say, Mr. Ibarra's partner and husband who spoke, he just said some really great words about Ravenswood. And I think Gina posted a clip of it, and it's also on the Facebook site for Ravenswood. And I think that all of us should go and read those words. And I think it's really important for us to, just acknowledge that our community is amazing. And I was able to firsthand experience it with my daughter being at Los Robles. And, she's already planning about, she's like, when I am in 5th grade, she's only in kindergarten. When I'm in 5th grade, am I going to have to go to a different school? And I said, yes. And she's like, but I don't want to. So I'm going to shrink back into a preschooler or a kindergartner and start all over. And that's how much she loves her school. And she's been there for 1 year and in a weird year, right? And so I just want to say that goes to what each and every single one of our school sites have been doing for each of their students. And it's just amazing to be able to, as Trustee Polito said, go see it in person and not only just see it once, but see it every day and seeing that growth and that love and the excitement to learn. And my son is going to be starting TK at Castano next year. So I'm super excited about that. And he's already telling everybody, I'm going to be going to TK at Castano. So yeah, we're working on all of that and making sure that he's also excited to go into that transition. So I also just wanted to, put it out there like we've been seeing all over is that we are still enrolling students, we're accepting students. And so as the community members, this is a time for you to come talk to parents, talk to the trustees, talk to people who are teachers, people who are there every day, so they can give you their experience of what it actually is versus what's being told. And I just want to make sure that that's clear for everyone that is hearing about our school district right now. It's great, it's amazing, and we are doing amazing things. And I hope to see more of us in our community actively involved and there. So thank you.
Wonderful. It was so great to hear from every single person on the board. First, I just want to say thank you to staff. Thank you for trekking through this meeting. Thank you for this year. And thank you for continuing to show up given this whole pandemic. I don't think that we thank our staff enough. And I just want to take this moment just to say thank you. And, we appreciate you. It's been a tough year and you've continued to come out resilient and continue to find solutions. And especially to our superintendent, it's not easy at all. And so just want to send my thank yous to you and our staff. Just kind of going back a little bit to Vice President Chabot-Maheen's comments around safety. We're going into the summer. It's not the most ideal situation. We're having issues with fireworks. We're having issues with our kids being out in these unsafe environments. And I say the unsafe environments, meaning I was on Bay and University, and while kids were crossing the road, there was cars that were cutting the kids off. And so I just want us as a board to think of ways that we can partnership with the city to create a more safer transportation infrastructure around our school and around our city for our kids. And I also want to challenge each and every person on this call as well, that if you see a young person out on the street, I'm not asking you to police them or anything, but it doesn't hurt just to say hi and, just check in, whatever they may be doing, especially at night. I see a lot of young people outside my apartment complex and they look like they're about to shoot off fireworks. And I just say, hey, what's up? What's going on? And they just kind of look at me like, you know what we're doing. And I say that because we want to create a safe environment. And so it doesn't hurt just to check in with our young people. Going on, I was able to visit some of the schools. Unfortunately, I did not attend this last weekend, but I got to see the mural before the unveiling, and it was a beautiful experience. I think Ravenswood is so lucky that we had all of these pieces around our entire community. And it kind of highlights the old and the new and how we're able to just coexist. And so if you go to any school site, you'll see a mural that represents a certain time in our history. And I just find it beautiful. And so I'm bummed out I didn't get to go, but I'm going to challenge all the trustees, send me a picture in front of the mural so we can create a collage. Because I think that I'm going to be holding the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I gotta like kind of go down a little bit. I think I'm a little too tall. But my last point is board meetings. I just want the public to know that we are making strides. We are having the conversation around bringing our board meetings to in person. It won't be this last meeting coming up in June, but when we do come back in August, there will be more effort, or we should be coming back in person. So I just wanted the public to know that. And lastly, I know I'm a bit lengthy today. Lastly, I just want the public to know that we as a board are making strides, and we're trying to follow up on those commitments to increasing enrollment within our school sites. Each and every board member has a very unique history and talents, and I just want you all to know that we're committed to a better Ravenswood and working together to kind of create synergy to take us to the right direction, and that's increasing school enrollment rates, increasing test scores, and just making Ravenswood overall a great experience. And I believe that we're heading in the right direction. I believe that we have a lot of great people. Cindy, Laura, Solomon, Will, Jen, Tony, Delma, Superintendent Sudaria, the board, and all of our staff across each school site. And so I just want to tell the community, just wait a little bit longer. Just wait a little bit longer, and send your kids to Ravenswood. And that is it from me. So unless we have any final comments from Superintendent Sudaria, I will just make a note that we will be having a closed session board retreat / special board meeting, and that will be June 14th, 2021, from 4:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. And the next regular board meeting will be held on June 24th, 2021 at 6:30. Open session will be at 7:15 p.m. And at 9:34 p.m., I will adjourn the Ravenswood City School District Governing Board meeting of June 10th. Thank you, and I hope everybody has a great night. Take care.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Stay safe.
Yeah.